And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Hello and welcome. I'm Warren. It is March 27, 2025, and we're going to be talking about the AEW Dynamite episode that occurred on March 26, 2025. And yes, I'm back. I took a week off last week. Just nothing serious, just took a break, but we're absolutely back in the saddle, absolutely ready to go. And I'm in the desk spot where, not in the armchair, which has become over there, as you can see in the background, for those of you who, with the benefit of video, I'm not over in the armchair that has sort of become the go-to spot for the reviews. The reason for that is simple. I have a really busy day on Thursday. So as opposed to what I usually do, I'm actually recording this after Dynamite on Wednesday night. Usually I like to record the next day. I like to sleep on it. I like to sleep over. Who doesn't like a good sleepover? But I like to sleep on it, think about it, refresh the next day, some clear-minded thoughts. This is more of a post show, more of an instant reaction type of deal. As opposed to usual, because I don't know how I'm going to fit it in, and when I do the recording over there from the armchair, well, there's a little more setup to it. There's a little more, it's a little more involved than me coming here and just opening up OBS and slapping record, because everything's already set up because I do all the streaming and whatnot here. So just a little exemption from the armchair this week. Trust me, I would enjoy being lounging around in the back there. Maybe Juno will come claim the spot as I'm doing this. Maybe not as well. I see her right now in the living room on the living room couch, all the way over there. She's she's taking it easy. Doesn't like it when I talk loud into the microphone. So. She has to protect her peace. I'm completely okay with that. How can you not support that? Your dog protecting its peace. Well, that's just fine. Basically, lots of little breaks from routines today. But don't worry. I figured I'd record this on the Wednesday, get it all prepped and ready for Thursday, so that everyone can just jump in and enjoy it. I'm always thinking about all of you, the A+ audience to this D-list podcast, all the time. Always got you in the back of my mind. Never going to let you down. I don't remember the lyrics off the top of my head here. It doesn't matter. We got to talk about a Dynamite, an episode of Dynamite. Shame that I wasn't here, that I on the week that I decide to just not record anything, not create any content, take a bit of a mental health break. Of course, Dynamite spins around and pumps out one of the best Dynamites I've seen all years. I'm like, oh sure, of course. And then I'm like, don't worry about it, Warren. AEW is going to do the same thing again next week. They're gonna churn out a Dynamite that you're going to be all ecstatic about. You're going to be you're going to feel it all the way to your fingertips. It's going to make you feel tingly all over. Wasn't exactly the case. I wouldn't say this, far from being a bad Dynamite, but I thought this was a pretty good Dynamite. I think we got some really good wrestling, which is always a plus, so that truly adds to the pretty good. And I think that the promos were all there. There was a weird vibe to everything that was kind of like on the promo creative side. At least for two substantial angles on the show, or two promo segments on the show. It felt like the vibes were a little off. Things were a little just a little askew. How about that? But far from being disasters, and even in one case, everything that was going astray a little bit was easily recouped as it went forward. Look, last week we got essentially no nonsense, minimal backstage stuff, minimal promos, and just match, which was absolutely phenomenal. And that's personally what I like. That's how I prefer my pro wrestling served. That's how I like it. Tonight there was more of a balance, and again, I think the wrestling overall hit. But the promo stuff, stories, angles, were fine, if a little awkward at times. And I think that's a little bit the theme of this review. A little awkward. I think awkwardness is the theme of this show, and didn't get into the way of completely turning this show into something that is completely unwatchable. No, absolutely not. It wasn't. But delightfully awkward. Like a wallflower. This was the wallflower of AEW Dynamite episodes, folks. This is what that was. Yeah. So, as we were saying, March 26, 2025, from St. Paul, Minnesota, at the Roy Wilkins Auditorium. We did not, of course, since I'm recording this on the Wednesday, we're a far cry from getting the final count from WrestleTix. However, WrestleTix did do an update earlier today. 3,432 tickets were distributed for the show, which was actually a bounce up from yesterday, which was they added an extra 370 tickets from yesterday. So they actually, from yesterday, they had already passed the threshold, 3,000 threshold, and almost made it to 3,500, which is again very good when you consider that right now the year-to-date Dynamite average attendance is 2,734 tickets distributed. So this is again very good. Another sign that things are looking up. We're not having disaster numbers in another venue. This is the first time we came to the Roy Wilkins Auditorium. When I say we, I mean AEW. And it was the first, it was a first time visit there. And again, nice venue. It looked good on camera. The video wall looked impressive. They were able to get some big crowd shots as well. So, you're again, like, this is different from getting, crowd shots of arenas filled with 10, 12, 15,000 people at a time. But nonetheless, the camera shots didn't feel awkward, didn't feel like they had to come in at weird angles to cover up the fact that, this section is out and this section is out, so on and so on. It felt a lot more fluid, felt a lot more natural. And of course, another very good crowd was on hand for Dynamite when, look, again, things seem to be, things seem to be pointing upwards. We seem to be on an upswing, but, we're not like sitting around and high-fiving each other saying, here we go. We, attendance-wise, we're back, so on and so forth. We're not in that spot yet. We're not back to an era where you'd have to fight for AEW tickets, and the tapings had, 6,000-7,000 people every week. 5,000 to 7,000. How about that? And no, we're still a far cry from that, but where we seem to be hoisting ourselves out of the disasters that accompanied, that have been plaguing AEW since 2023, really. I think it all caught up with them. And I think they're doing appropriate measures. And look, the product feels better. It's booked better. I think that's unquestionable at this point. It's booked better. It's well put. It's better put together, and it's coming across on television as better. So guess what happens? Well, more people are watching, and it seems like the ticket buyer confidence, the consumer confidence of the ticket buying audience seems to be on an uptrend. Not saying that we've suddenly capsized and we are so back kind of thing. That's not it. I just want to make sure I want to be very clear that that's not what I'm saying, but there are positive signs, positive trends here, which is very good. So, yeah, Minecraft. Do you like Minecraft, kids? I hear the Minecraft is really popular. We were getting a movie with Jack Black and Jason Momoa. You know, I've been tricked into accepting to go see this film like live in a theater. I will report back, quite unfortunately. I don't know if I'm going to go this weekend or what. Probably, you know what? Probably not the weekend with a bunch of kids around. Come to think of it, probably. Well, maybe unless we go on maybe like Friday evening or something. But I'm not going on a Saturday. There's no shot. I'm going to see the Minecraft movie like in a matinee. I'm gonna want to unlife myself in Minecraft. But yeah, were you excited about? Were you excited about the crafting things? You know, having your crafting table, and then making hammers and pickaxes, and then digging. Never dig straight down. That's a bad thing. Never dig straight down. It's a poor decision. Never ends well. Anyway, but look, jokes aside, like I know the Minecraft movie is chock full of memes and is absolutely not a serious film, but it is a big budget film, and it is a film I believe that the producers want to see some success. So, well, is Warner Brothers the distributor here? I don't know. Let me take a look here. The distributor or the studio. So it is distributed by Warner Bros. Okay. So it is distributed by Warner Bros. Pictures, as I kind of assumed, but I didn't want to like say something and then be completely off base. I did want to make sure that it was indeed distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. So, you know, there's some corporate synergy going on here. And they gave substantial space for the big sponsorship, for the big synergy here, to tap into the AEW fan base, who will certainly be excited to go see, you know, Jack Black, who is, you know, still oh so fresh, just still doing very fresh material, you know, not doing complacent, redundant, hackneyed material. No. Jack Black is still oh so very fresh. Jason Momoa looking like doing a tough guy routine. I mean, come on. And then realistic cube animals and shit like that. And creepers. Are you excited for the creepers? My God, that creeper that was, you know, they had the Minecraft thing on the video wall on loop during the matches, right? That fucking creeper that it was so distracting at first. I eventually got used to it. But at first I was so distracted. Not because I'm like, oh, creeper, it's going to explode. Not like that. It's just like, because this huge like head would just like whoop, pop up out of nowhere. And I get it. It's a creeper. That's the thing. Okay. I understand. I've played the fucking game. I've had 2 children that were raised on Minecraft. I must have bought, like most parents, I've probably bought Minecraft on I've probably bought 12 different copies of Minecraft, right? Like, you know, one for the PC, one for the PS4, one for the fucking mobile applications, one for the Switch, one for the other kid's computer. It's like, it just never stopped. One for the family PC, the other for the iMac, and it just never stops. It never stops. So I'm very familiar with the Minecraft. And how it works. So I'm familiar with the creeper, and I understand the creeper is supposed to take you by surprise and then explode, right? That's the thing. That's why, it goes. and you run away because otherwise you blow up and you lose all your shit. I understand that. So I understand why it's popping up. But if you're watching a wrestling match, you're watching something, and then in the back, you have this huge like green head, like the whoop pop out, like, oh, it's distracting. At first I had trouble focusing on the first match because of the fucking creepers. There's something. Put that in your review. Hey, you think the Observer's going to talk about how annoying the creepers were? Do you think you listen to Dave and Brian? Do you think you're going to get the in-depth analysis as to how Minecraft correlates with pro wrestling and your experiences with Minecraft? You think you're going to get something like I just gave you listening to anyone else? No, hell no. That's what I provide. I provide a nice cushion of useless knowledge to go around to lay under your wrestling analysis so that it can be nice and cushy, and everyone just like feels really comfy and maybe wants to take a nap. Don't take a nap while I review this, or do. Maybe my voice just, is like soothing and comforting and puts you to sleep. I do that, right? Where you turn on something where someone's voice will just like carry you off, right? Because whatever, be a song, be a YouTuber, be a podcast, be whatever. Maybe you do that. I don't know. Do you put me on to go to sleep? You turn on my videos? Let me know if you do. I'll send you a t-shirt. I don't have t-shirts. I could send you a t-shirt. I could send you this t-shirt. I know I like the yellow t-shirt. I actually changed my t-shirt before starting. You ever get like these mystery stains? And this sounds weird to say, but that's strange. Yeah, that sounds really weird. But I did have mystery stains on the previous t-shirt that I had, which was blue, like a deep blue. And I started off and I'm talking and then I started to check my monitor. And I'm like, wait, I've got, what's that? And then, is that like a stain? Like an oil stain. Like I was making some stir fry tonight. So I'm like, maybe some oil splashed up on me. And that sucks because then, that you can't get that shit out. But it's funny because I didn't notice it. I didn't see it on my t-shirt until I sat down here with the lights on. I'm like, fuck. This t-shirt's stained. Mystery stains. I think it's oil. You perverts. I think it's oil. Don't worry. So I went and I changed it and put this. Well, why am I talking about this? The first match we got tonight on this edition of Dynamite was Kenny Omega defeating Blake Christian. They started off the match to make sure that anyone who needed to have conniptions over what's the story, what's the build, they were able to like just have their conniptions. Throw their fits early on so that they could enjoy the rest of the program, I guess, or just, throw them into such intense fits that they just tap out and go do anything else than watch pro wrestling, because it is the dumbest reaction to have. Quite frankly, okay, let's start this properly. They start off the show. They start off the match, I should say, with a little recap of Blake Christian's 7-match winning streak from Ring of Honor. It's like, okay, that's great. No, thank you for telling us what's going on Ring of Honor because no one listens. But that's also, look, I don't hate the strategy where it's like, look, if you win enough, look, or at least I don't hate the strategy of you should be watching Ring of Honor. Right? Because that's ultimately what AEW is telling you here. You should be watching Ring of Honor because there's stuff happening here that could impact your viewing experience on Dynamite. So we got this one guy over here who's on a winning streak, and now he's facing Kenny Omega in a non-title match, but that's because he's won enough matches to sort of, wrestle on main, to use a term from another promotion. And like, I don't hate that. No, let me be clear. I like that. I think it's pretty neat where it's like, okay, but what it does is that clearly establishes Ring of Honor as, the secondary, very, very secondary brand. They're not on the same footing. It's like Ring of Honor is not on the level of AEW, that's for sure. And will watching Blake Christian get squashed on Dynamite compel you to then turn around and watch Ring of Honor to see what this kid can do? The answer again is probably not. But I don't hate the idea. Like, the idea is good, where you're like, where people can win on Ring of Honor, can do great, can earn spots on Dynamite or Collision for that fact. I don't hate it. I think that makes more sense than just pulling someone up randomly. But then again, then you can absolutely 100% counter this by saying, well, why hasn't Athena been on Dynamite? And then there you go. I mean, I'm not going to defend what's going on. I'm saying I like the idea. And I think if there was more attention brought to that idea, I think we might have something, but that would entail taking care of wins and losses and making sure that all that shit makes sense. And, Tony Khan can't handle like basic ratings every week. So, there's no way we're doing this, we're expanding this. But nonetheless, established all of this. And despite all of that, Kenny Omega won, which was essentially a squash match. Essentially, that's what I'd say this was. I mean, this Kenny Omega versus Alan Angels, this was not. Anyone who was worried that Kenny was going to give too much you remember that shit? Kenny Omega would give too much to Blake Christian. That was not the mandate tonight. Tonight, the mandate was get Blake Christian in there to do some cool things. I think he flubbed his tope, his kind of his signature spot, right? Where he does a tope, but grabs the guy by the neck as he's flipping over so that he lands on his feet. And he's got the guy in a slop drop position and then drops him to the floor, which is a cool spot. That if you watched Blake Christian matches, you've seen 100 times at this point. But if you're kind of new to him, but I think that's what he tried to do when he flubbed it, I believe. Lee Johnson was out there too. They're pals. Anyway, it was fine. It was a fine little match, and Omega lands some Omega lands dragon suplexes and a V-trigger and the one-winged angel, and we're done. There we go. It's fine. After the match, Omega gets on the mic, and Omega himself is like, he has this natural awkwardness. Remember the theme of the show, of the review. And he has this natural awkwardness, but it's endearing. That's what makes Kenny Omega Kenny Omega. When he starts talking about, I don't need friends, I have a cat. You're like, oh, all right. Yes, he's got this little vibe to him that makes him extremely likable, and that's legitimately part of his charm and what gets him so over with AEW crowds. So. He's basically putting over the match at Dynasty, and then Speedball comes out and he has a microphone in his hands, and I'm like, oh, no, don't do this to him. But Mike Bailey and Kenny Omega have the funniest exchange in just one line and one response when Speedball says Kenny Omega, because this is after the match, he says, congratulations, as if to congratulate him on his match. That's what he should have said. Congratulations on your victory. He says, Kenny Omega, congratulations. And then he pauses because Speedball is not a talker. I'm just that he's an awkward talker. So Kenny Omega he sees there's the pause, waits for the perfect comedic moment to respond, and says, thank you. Like, what are you congratulating me about? Exactly. Fantastic. I burst out laughing. I thought it was the funniest shit, and the audience burst out laughing too. That clearly rattled Speedball at the same time, who delivered a very bog standard, perfectly acceptable wrestling promo. You know, imagine like, you know, you've got, I don't know, you know, Tito Santana next to Mean Gene Okerlund back in 1983 or 84, whenever. And he's saying, yeah, he's basically saying all, you know, come to pay-per-view, Kenny Omega, I respect you. I respect you as a person. I respect you as a competitor, a champion. But come to pay-per-view on April, whatever the fuck, I'm going to beat you and win the It's like, it's so awkward, it's adorable. You know, it's like when you're a kid and you're playing pro wrestling with your buddies. You know, you have your little fed, you know, and you're tossing your friends around, you know, and you've got all, you know, you've got all the couch cushions on the floor, you know, in the den or in the playroom, you know, whatever, you know, and you're just, you know, you and your buddies are goofing off, and then you cut your promos after the match. That's exactly how you do it. That's, you know, it's exactly the same thing. Anyhow, Kenny starts talking after this, and then we're interrupted by Ricochet, who is not there on location. He's married. He's getting married. Congratulations. Apparently him and Samantha Irvin. Yeah, I almost forgot her name. Apparently her and he are getting hitched. So congratulations to the happy couple. That being said, he calls in. Is he on a Zoom call? Like, yeah, like I swear, you know, I started getting pandemic era vibes, you know, kind of like when you remember when the Inner Circle would do like Zoom promos with each other, but they'd all be like in their own homes, of course. You remember that stuff? That I got those vibes. That's how I felt. This is what I felt. Like, oh my God. And you know, the quality wasn't great. The audio was terrible. You know, some people say, oh, he's looking like Andrew Tate now, isn't he? He looked like a server at a very fancy restaurant in Hollywood. It's like, that's what you're wearing for your wedding, bro? Okay, all right. Yeah, well, who am, you know? All right, that's fine. You know, people will mistake you for, you know, getting catering, you know, probably like garçon. You know? Yeah, but it was all very awkward. It turned out that it was all just like awkward, but a delightful level of awkward. I thought Kenny's overall like charm here really did save the segment, because the recording or the Zoom call or whatever the fuck they aired with Ricochet was fine, but the quality was so off-putting that it sort of took me out of it anyway. Speedball was so fucking adorable playing pro wrestler there. It was look, I'm gonna give him a pass. You know, it's his second night on the job. He said it himself. It's the big leagues. It's the biggest career move of his career. The nerves and so on and so forth. And it's not his strength. It has never been his strength. It's never, ever, ever, ever been his strength. So maybe we'll look back on this in a couple of years when he's become a master of, once he's become a master of the promo, maybe we'll look back on this and chuckle and say, oh, how far we've come, you know, kind of thing. Let's move on. We go backstage where the learning tree are there. First of all, we get a recap of Bandito getting Gravity's mask back from Chris Jericho. And we also see a bit of that delightfully incredible, unaired footage of Chris Jericho getting into a verbal altercation with a child, which legitimately was a lot of fun. I thought it was really funny. The kid getting Chris Jericho to break was tremendous. Anyway, you've all seen it by now, I'm sure. But essentially that leads us to the promo with the learning tree, where Chris Jericho, first and foremost, tells Big Bill and Brian Keith, look, you guys need to prove yourselves again to me. All right. Because all masks are off. You see what he's doing here? We got to take off all the masks. All masks are off. You guys have to go show that you can still hang with me. So then, they're like, okay, Chris Jericho, we'll do what you ask. But ultimately, Chris Jericho challenges Bandito for a match at Dynasty, and it's going to be title versus mask. So I'm sitting here thinking, is Bandito ugly? As most CMLL guys who get unmasked are. Star Jr. this week was not. Relatively handsome looking fella. But is Bandito? Look, Bandito's not losing his mask. His mask is his whole thing. The mask is instant charisma. He has one of the most original, luchador masks out there. Instantly recognizable. There's no fucking way he's losing his mask. So get ready for a title change, you Chris Jericho haters out there. You'll all be excited about that, I'm sure. Then we get the MJF and MVP segment, where MJF comes to the ring to give an answer to MVP. So he pretty much invites MVP to join him, which he does. And he said he's given some thought and essentially tells MVP, I am now in the business. I'm since the Adam Cole stuff, I don't want to have friends anymore. Great. Someone's learned his lesson. Thank you, Max. But he says, look, I'm in the business of, the thing I like about you, MVP, is that when you come to work, you're all business. I'm all business. I want to hurt people. And they extend their hands, but they don't get the time to shake because the Hurt Business theme hits. And that, of course, distracts pro wrestlers because they're like fucking crows when they see something shiny on the floor. And Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin walk to the ring. They do not seem pleased about this decision that MVP has taken. And Bobby Lashley steps right up to MJF, requests the business card that was given to MJF by MVP last week, and or the week before. Was it last week or the week before? Doesn't matter. The regardless of the time period, and proceeds to tear it up. MJF doesn't understand. He's like, what the fuck? MVP is like, brother, whoa. And it gets a little heated, but, MVP calms everyone down. It's like, we're cool. Everything's cool. And, Max is like, okay, we'll get back to you. MVP's like, we'll get back to you. Don't worry, this is not done. Max walks away. Interesting little wrinkle here, little development. Don't hate it. We wouldn't be done with the Hurt Business regardless on this edition of Dynamite. That bleeds into, as the Hurt Business are left alone in the ring because MJF has hit the bricks, Big Bill and Brian Keith come out. Now, again, the theme of this review is awkward. But not for the same reasons. Not awkward in the same sense as, let's say, Mike Bailey, who's just like, oh, it's like, so, right? Not awkward like that. Awkward here because Bill and Brian Keith basically had a script, or at least bullet points that they had readied and memorized, but MVP didn't give a shit, and he ate those boys alive. He completely ate them, gobbled them up alive, interjecting, shooting out zingers telling Big Bill, you better put your bitch on her leash. Like, holy Christ. That was not planned. You know, they were sort of talked over each other a little bit. That was not a planned comeback. When Big Bill said, I look at the ring right now and I don't see any challengers for the titles, MVP immediately jumps in and says, neither do I. Oh my God. Like, those two dudes were just completely destroyed. Completely destroyed. Now, if we stick to like the kayfabe that the reason why they were giving this story, Big Bill was using some kind of weird logic to say, I never lost these titles. My tag partner got pinned by Sting, and then Sting retired the belts, and I was never given a shot back. So I'm calling my rematch. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. It's not like a singles title. It's Ricky Saints is doing something else right now. And, I don't think he's going to come back just to settle this rematch clause thing. No, that's not quite how it works. Thankfully, MVP saw through the bullshit. He was like, look, you guys beat a team and then get back to us. And I like that modus operandi that MVP has, where it's like, no, you're not going to come out of nowhere and challenge me. I don't know who you chumps are. I just destroyed you. I eviscerated you live in this promo. Okay. You are not going to come in here and tell us that you're challenging us. I don't know who you chumps are. Go back, do your homework, and then when you're ready, maybe I'll give you a shot, kind of thing. And I like that. He did that with the Outrunners, and he did that with the Outrunners, and now he's doing it with Big, and I think that's fine. I think that's actually a very good idea. So, they're going to put the guys on the pay-per-view again, and I would expect that this match, if they do put it on the pay-per-view, or whatever they put it, I would expect that the Hurt Syndicate versus Big Bill and Brian Keith will be better, much better than the Hurt Syndicate versus the Outrunners, which wasn't very good. Kind of stunk. So yeah, so this one was awkward just because of, how off the cuff MVP here was. And you could tell the other guys were just not ready to go toe to toe with a shit talker like Montel. I can never remember what the VP Porter. What does the V stand? I can never remember what the V stands for. But they were not ready to go toe to toe with a shit talker of this caliber. And MVP is currently one of the absolute best talkers in AEW. In a promotion filled with great talkers, MVP is right up there. And he proved it later on. Why don't we get that segment out of the way so that, we're not revisiting it? Because he did it again later, much later in the show, towards the end, just before the main event, right? The Hurt Syndicate are backstage. They get interrupted by Alicia Atut, who, and they're like, no, hang on. We're talking business here. And, basically it's Shelton and Lashley who are talking to MVP, sort of like, what's going on? And they're trying to get all back on the same page. And MVP is so great here because he is explaining concisely, shortly. He's pitching at the guys. Look, yes, I know, because Bobby's like, MJF, he's grimy. He's not trustworthy. I don't like him. And MVP pitches him. And concisely, and he even had me convinced. It's like, yes, and these are qualities that I like. I know who he is, and I like the guy. You like the guy? I like the guy. So, they kind of all like sit around, they stand around and they find their footing. They're all back on the same page after the end because MVP is a tremendous talker and is able to make the through line of the story come across just like perfectly. And he tells them, the two guys, look, I'll handle the MJF thing, but right now you guys focus on the Big Bill situation. You don't need much sometimes in pro wrestling for things to make sense and be compelling. This worked tremendously. Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa are backstage for a Thunderstorm reunion, which was the name of their tag team back in the day. However, Toni Storm blindsides everyone and starts calling it Thunder Tits. And she calls Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford sloppy tarts, which got a big laugh out of me. It's good stuff. It's fine. They played off of each other perfectly. It's good. Then we had the second match of the night where Kyle Fletcher defeated Brody King. This match was terrific, wasn't it? Wasn't it just like just a kind of pro wrestling that you're like, man, this is great. Just a couple of guys going absolutely bonkers, just kicking the shit out of each other. This is great. It's no nonsense. Big physical stuff. Of course, that's Brody's bread and butter. He hits a side slam and a huge power bomb. Then, of course, does an incredible tope. And, the audience, the crowds, they love Brody King. They love Brody King. They really do. And I love Brody King, too. I think he's tremendous. Fletcher fights back, lands a tope of his own, and he does a great elbow dive. Like a tremendous elbow dive. I know, top rope elbow dives might be a little passé, but I was like, wow, that looked so good. Don Callis then distracts, which allows Mark Davis to interfere and gets Kyle Fletcher out of a cannonball situation by Brody King. And then the finish arrives soon thereafter when they're jockeying for position, like on the turnbuckle, they're on the ropes, and Brody's lifting Kyle into a DVD position or fireman's carry, but Mark Davis interferes. Referee gets distracted. Kyle Fletcher gouges the eyes, which allows him then to get the upper hand on Brody. And what does he do? Nothing much. Just lifts him up and does the generico, brainbuster on the turnbuckle. I'm like, Jesus, he just lifted Brody King into this. That was awesome. That was awesome. It was a good match. It was a good little TV match. The heels win with nefarious schemes. It was tremendous. After the match, the Don Callis family then attack Brody King, and that leads to Powerhouse Hobbs hitting the ring, coming in through the crowd, by the way, to clean house. Brody then knocks Fletcher out of the ring, and then that bleeds into the next match, which was scheduled. But see, I like this. We get the post-match angle that leads us into the match here, which where Powerhouse Hobbs defeated Mark Davis. And they just pound on each other. They just lay into each other with some huge lariats. They drop each other on with big power moves. But Hobbs gets the upper hand. It's not a long match, like sub 3 minutes. Hobbs wins with the big spine buster for the win. I love it. I like that. Efficient, does the job. Mark Davis is fine. Who cares? Continues to build Powerhouse Hobbs, who's been racking up wins every week on TV. Most weeks on TV, at the very least. It's good stuff. Then we go backstage to Nick Wayne, who explains that things are starting to make sense regarding Christian Cage's actions at Revolution. And he emphasizes the importance of everyone being on the same page and executing the plan properly, which seems to be a veiled shot at Christian Cage. Mama Wayne thinks that's pretty clever of her son. Kip Sabian is not impressed. In fact, he seems to feel a little awkward. Then we get Renee Paquette. She's with Hangman Adam Page. He starts to talk about whatever the fuck. And almost immediately, Swerve just runs up right into his face and gets at him for stuff that he said last week, where last week Page was saying he was going to get into Swerve's business, where he basically said, I made a promise that I would never let Swerve Strickland be world champion. And Swerve gets immediately in his face. Oh, you want to step up. And it's just a nice little thing. Just a nice little thing that makes sense to remind us that these guys absolutely hate each other. Even if they're both baby faces, it's not going to matter. These guys are going to hate each other forever, and it is tremendous. Prince Nana has to sort of drag Swerve away. And that's where we're at. So we plant that seed, probably, in the context of the Owen, I would say, because, I got some bad news for you if you think Swerve is winning. But we're not covering. We'll do a proper preview on the Mr. MrWarrenHayes show. This is where I'm at, right? Look, okay. I don't think I don't think Mox drops the title at Dynasty. I don't think you do that. Not at Dynasty. And I know this is going to bother a lot of people because there's a lot of people don't like the Jon Moxley these days. A lot of people love Swerve. A lot of people just want to get the belt off of Mox and onto Swerve. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if he's I don't know. My gut says probably a good idea to hang on to it. Probably a good idea to have the hero of AEW come in to take it off Jon Moxley. Now, who is the hero? Well, there are a few candidates. But again, we'll talk about that on another occasion. I don't want to get into that too much. We've still got a lot of show to do, and we're about 50 minutes in. So what do you want? We'll keep this ball rolling here. Adam Copeland and FTR have a therapy session. They have a group therapy session with Tony Schiavone, who apparently is a licensed therapist now. I hope he sent them a nice invoice at the end of that. Dax is being passive aggressive on some things, and Adam Copeland is kind of not having it, and Cash Wheeler wants to keep the peace, and that's essentially it. They're sowing the seeds. They're sowing the seeds here, and basically Dax was saying, "Look, Cope, we've been helping you try to achieve your dream of being world champion, and we've lost focus on the tag team titles, and we'd like to go for the tag team titles." So then he starts to cut a promo on the Hurt Business. He says, Hurt Business, we're, whatever the fuck. And then the other guy, I think it's Cash. Who goes, who sort of brings up the idea, but it's Cash and Copeland anyway. Bring up the idea of, well, why don't we do a trios run? Why don't we go for the trios titles and beat the Death Riders? And they're very gung-ho about it. And Dax goes, all right, sure, whatever the fuck. So, resentments are being built. I don't think this was a very successful therapy session. It is what it is. It's fine. Like, little mid-card feud. I don't have an issue with it. Keep Cope away from, top title picture. And I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Then we have the Swerve Strickland Jon Moxley confrontation, where Swerve comes in first, calls out Mox, who comes to the ring, and they stand face to face with each other, right across from each other. Now, this one started off a little, say it with me now, awkward, as Swerve took control of the promo segment, started with his thoughts, and I don't know if he was forgetting his lines. I don't know if he was tripping over himself, but he was not in control. He was a little scattered. He seemed to be regrouping at a couple of moments because he sort of let the energy sort of siphoned away with some dead air at a couple of occasions when he was cutting the promo. And I was like, what the hell's going on? Okay. So it started off a little awkward, but essentially, he's saying that he's establishing the idea that whoever this Jon Moxley is not the Jon Moxley that was revered in AEW and who was the man. Now it's just a guy who hides behind a bunch of people, and, he hides the title in the briefcase because he can't bear to look at it. Whatever the fuck. Awkward. we pass the mic over to Jon Moxley, who seems to get things a little back on rails, right? And, he acknowledges Swerve as the real deal. He's saying, look, that we have a business that's overrun by billionaires and kids with Instagram filters who don't know what the fuck they're doing. And I always saw in you are the real deal kind of thing. So that's why I'm going to give you a shot here. That's fine. But he asks Swerve, how far are you willing to go? Because he feels he hasn't gone far enough. He still has a lot of struggle to do. He hasn't struggled like Moxley has, essentially is what he's saying. Swerve has one last response, which really picks up where, like, in this section here, he's back in control. I don't know if he just felt energized getting some pushback from Mox or whatever. Claudio is out to threaten Nana, kind of thing. And he basically says a terrific line, and I'm going to paraphrase it here, but he says, basically, I'm going to beat you, and in the meantime, you can continue to portray or to play, that's the word, to play Jon Moxley on television, which I thought was a terrific line, and goes exactly it's exactly to the beat of how a lot of people feel about Jon Moxley these days, where it's like, what the fuck is wrong? This is not the Jon Moxley we know. What is he doing? So on and so forth. Now maybe we're getting into something, because after last week's fantastic bump that he took, right? I talked about, we're not going to talk about it here, but I did talk about it on stream when I came back on Monday. Like, what a fantastic visual. What a fantastic bump. And that's a very Jon Moxley thing to do. Are we starting to get back to the Jon Moxley of old? Is that what we're doing here? Are we setting ourselves back in time a little bit? And is the feud with Swerve going to bring that Jon Moxley back out? I've also said a couple of times, I'm not ready to throw the Jon Moxley title run out with the bathwater. I really am not. I think Moxley's reign right now has just suffered from not fighting real top guys in the company. Guys that the audience perceive as top guys. The four-way is what it is. Yes, there was Adam Page in there. It's still nonsense. Orange Cassidy, not a top guy. Edge, Adam Copeland, I don't think anyone, AEW fans, they love Adam Copeland, but they don't see him as a top guy. Swerve is a top guy. Swerve looks and feels like a top guy. So I'm absolutely okay with this turn here. And I think it might reinvigorate Mox at the same time. I think he felt it tonight. Felt more like himself. Absolutely was like himself last week in the match with Copeland. So I'm fine with this. I am absolutely fine with this. Anyway, it was a good line. The promo was saved towards the end. Then Marina Shafir shows up with a crowbar. She's sneaking up on Swerve to take him out like Moxley did. Willow Nightingale rolls in with the pipe. She's ready to smack Marina around. Marina backs down because Mox tells her to, essentially, but she can't. And they all start to walk away, but Marina is pissed off and she goes after Willow, and they have a bit of a pull apart brawl, but it's a little awkward, just a little, they're separating. Like, Willow's really going for it. Willow is really going for it. She understands the mission of a pull apart brawl. If you have an opening to go after the person you want, you just go. Go. And who cares about the security guards or whoever's trying to keep you away? You just go. Marina, she was playing the role of being in a pull apart, if that makes sense. I don't think she was really feeling it, and it just created a couple of weird instances. But anyway, everyone hits the bricks, and that's the end of the segment. I didn't mention we all saw Von Wagner. I can't remember. what segment did we get where their security? Was there security? What was the set? I don't remember. Was it this one? I think it was this one. I don't remember. Oh no, it's when Powerhouse Hobbs showed up, right? Was that it? But anyway, Von Wagner was there. Good for him. Like, clearly he's not getting the call back. The guy still wants to get some work. So, you know, he's a local guy. He's the local guy. He shows up. He does he puts on the security suit and he pretends to be a security guy. But everyone goes, oh, that's Von Wagner. What are we doing? Good for him. Good for him. Do I want to see him on Dynamite? No. I'm going to put him on Ring of Honor, kick the tires on him, go right ahead. I think that's a fine spot for him, right? I'm a little surprised he hasn't been recast anywhere. I'm surprised he didn't end up in TNA pre-WWE arrangement. And I kind of feel with the WWE arrangement, I think it sort of limits his possibilities. But anyway, Samoa Joe and Hook are having a little chat. I couldn't quite make it out. I think the audio was a little bad on this one. I think Hook was saying that it was fun to choke out Max Caster. That was the thing, right? They're doing the banter thing, right? Where Katsuyori Shibata is suddenly, he commandeers a camera and he's suddenly like, he's suddenly this terrific live sports cameraman. Like he moonlights as this, like does he work for the NFL on the, or whatever? He's tremendous. Yeah, whatever. It's fine. Yeah. So they're chatting. They run into Max Caster, who's being a goofball. Samoa Joe chokes him out. And he's like, yeah, you're right. You're right, Hook. It is fun to choke him out. I promise you, Max Caster's getting over with this. Okay? He is getting over with this. And there's a lot of you who don't want to hear that. There's a lot of you who don't want that. But what he's doing is objectively good, and he's getting over. And he's going to get over doing this act right now, because it's working. It's working. Jay White is backstage with Renee Paquette. He inserts himself into the Owen. Then we get local boys Top Flight defeating Alex Findley. There's a D, not Findley. Findley and Devo Knight. A nice little squash match. Very high energy, high octane. Crowd was super into the Martin brothers, and it just so happens that Big Bill and Brian Keith were watching on, looking on from backstage. So is this the team they're going to beat? Tune in and find out on Collision this week. Oh, by the way, Action Andretti and Leo Rush are in the front row to watch this match because the feud with Top Flight must never end. We get a hype reel for Will Ospreay, and that leads us to a Konosuke Takeshita match where he defeated Mark Briscoe in my match of the night. This was terrific. This was absolutely phenomenal. Went above and beyond. Great TV match. Mark Briscoe, per usual, just over delivers. Knows what the mandate is and goes above and beyond every single time. Somersault senton to the floor, of course. He does the Cactus Jack elbow drop running on the barricade, which was phenomenal stuff. And then they get back into the ring. They start throwing each other, dropping Germans and back suplexes and just tremendous stuff. Crowd is on their feet for this one. Like, they stood up. I think they stood up when they got on the floor, and they did not sit down for the rest of this match. It was phenomenal. Mark lands the J Driller, covers a little slow, and that allows Takeshita to regain his senses enough to put his foot on the bottom rope. And then he mounts a little comeback, lands the burning, what do we call it? Raging fire. Raging fire. Is that it? Did I get it right this week? Raging fire for the win. Takeshita getting wins on Dynamite. He's planning. Tony's planning something. He's cooking something up for old Konosuke Takeshita. According to Mina Shirakawa, one of the favorites with the ladies backstage in AEW. Good for him. Good for him. You go and get yours. Take soup. You go and get yours. Then we have the trios champions, Claudio, Pac, and Yuta Wheeler Yuta, answering the challenge of Rated FTR, and they say, yeah, let's do it at Dynasty. And Claudio, I think, I think he talked in German again or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Then we get the Hurt Syndicate promo that we talked about, which leads us to the main event, where Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford defeated Thunder Tits. This was a fine little match. That was all right. The purpose of this match was very, very clear. It was to get people excited for Toni Storm versus Megan Bayne and to establish the fact that the champion will be in danger at the pay-per-view because Megan Bayne, was no-selling some of her offense. I was going to say kicking out of finishers, but no, she didn't do that. But she was no selling offense, getting back up after big moves, and eventually landed the F5 on Storm for the win. So it's a tale as old as time. Beauty and the Beast. Oh, this one here. No, but it was that's exactly what this was for. And it was a fine little match, a good little TV match. I have no issues with it. I think Megan Bayne and Toni Storm is going to be a very interesting prospect. I think I think explosive babyface Toni is going to have to do a lot of work, but I think it's going to turn out to be just fine from what we see here. So yeah, got people intrigued, got people talking about Megan Bayne and how strong she is, and now so mission accomplished. Can't say it was a poor decision. Celebrating after the match with a lot of very awkward, little awkward celebrations with Penelope Ford, who's like trying to hug her and I don't know, like raise her arm and hug her and all sorts. Just a little scattered, awkward finish, but other than that, it was fine. I have no issues with the main event. I shouldn't have you. Just like I have no issues to wrap all of this episode. Look, good little episode. Good little episode of Dynamite. I enjoyed it overall. It was pretty good. But yeah, it's like just under an umbrella of awkwardness, keeping all of the confidence out. So the confidence is pouring on you, but it's rolling off of your umbrella of awkwardness. That's what it did. And I know about awkward, trust me. Thank you everyone for watching. If you're listening on YouTube right now, consider leaving a like, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating on Spotify. Those things also help as well. I will be back streaming later tonight on Thursday. If you're listening to this on Thursday on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Otherwise, back Monday for the streams and a Mr. Warren Hayes show proper on Wednesday. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thank you very much for watching. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me, and I will see you next time.